Hey everyone, this is Miss Linder and we have lesson 24, writing equations giving 2 points. Okay, so basically the only thing we're adding from what we did yesterday is we're going to be finding the slope first. Okay, so then we would find the b, and then we're finally going to write our answers in the y-intercept form. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so here we have 2 points, and we know to be able to do the y-intercept form, we have to have mx plus b, we have to know the slope, and we have to know the BOM, the y-intercept. So the first thing they're having us do is to find slope. So remember, you can do that by the box method or the Planck method, and I like the Planck method. So here we have 7 subtract 9, remember it because it's y1 subtract y2 over x1 subtract x2. So we also have on the bottom 2 subtract 5. All right, taking care of adding additive inverse. So my slope is -2 over -3, and we know that that makes double negatives make positive. So far we have found slope, and that is 2/3. All right, so yesterday they gave you 1 point and the slope, and you had to find the equation. Well, they're giving us 2 dots. We get to make a choice. We can choose either 2, 7 or 5, 9 to create our equation. So I'm going to go ahead and write down that I'm going to take 2, 7. So that means I have slope and I have 1 point. So now all I do is plug in what I have. So I've got 7 as y, 2/3 is m, and 2 as my x plus b. All right, so this gives me 7 equals 4/3 plus b. And I'm going to add a -4/3 to both sides, which means I can change that to a mixed number. So I'm going to take 7 and I'm going to add a -1 1/3. So that gives me 6. Sorry, that gives me 6 2/3, 3/3. And then I would subtract, so that gives me 5 2/3 for my b. Now you're going to sit there and say, but Miss Linder, b's are supposed to be decimals. I agree, and I know that, but I needed to use it as either a decimal or a fraction to solve. So my final answer, remember I'm going to mark that out. I have m, which was 2/3. And now they told me that the b is 5 2/3. So that's 0.6 repeating. So since we know those 2 things, we can fill in our equation. So y equals 2/3 x plus 5.6 repeating. All right, so we're going to work on number 2, and at this point, I want you to go ahead, because you probably don't have much room, I want you to get out a sheet of paper, and you're going to do the rest of the notes on paper, because it's actually going to be the work and solving it, and then we're going to only put the answers on that note sheet. So here we go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to go ahead and put S, B, and EQ. Because we want to find slope first, then the BOM, the y-intercept, and then we need to state the equation. So the first thing we're going to do is find the slope. So we have 0 subtract 2 and 4 subtract 6. So I have 0 minus 2 and 4 minus 6, additive inverse and additive inverse. So that gives me my slope as a -2 over -2, which ends up being 1. All right, so for the bomb, I'm going to choose one of these points. It does not matter which one I choose, but we're going to put it underneath. So I'm going to choose the first one. So I'm going to plug that into that y equals mx plus b. So my y would be 0. My m is 1 because I found that from before, and my x is 4 plus the b. So that gives me 0 is equal to 4 plus b. I add my -4 to both sides. So my b is equal to -4. So now I have found the m and the b, so I'm going to write my equation. Y equals, well, 1 times x is just x, so I'm going to write x. And that's not a, there's x. And then we have -4 is our b, so that's subtract 4. So I have found the equation by using the 2 points to find the slope. Then I plug that slope in with one of the points to find the b, and it gives me y is equal to x minus 4. All right, let's move to the next one. So the first thing we're going to do is find slope, then the b, then the equation. And I'm not going to, you do your work on the notebook paper. I'm doing it here because I can't pull in another screen right now. So let's go ahead and find the slope. So 7 minus a -2. Remember that goes inside the parentheses so we don't forget. And that's a -5, subtract 3. Additive inverse, additive inverse. So that gives me a 9 over a -8. So my slope is a -9/8. Now I'm going to take 1 point, doesn't matter which one, I'm going to take the 3, -2. I'm going to plug it into the y equals mx plus b formula. So my y is a -2. My m is a -9/8, and my x is a 3/1 plus the b. So I have a -2, a -27/8 plus b. Need to make that into a decimal. So that's a -3.375. Going to add that to both sides so it becomes a positive. So we have a positive 3.375 plus a -2. Remember that would be. So that gives me a 1.375 is the b. And then I take the slope, I take the b, and I make the equation. So y equals -9/8 x plus 1.375. And it is okay to have decimals and funky fractions. Notice that they're not asking us to graph, and that's okay. All right, let's go ahead and do this one. Remember, we want to find the slope, the b, and then the equation. So I'm going to do the Planck method. So 5 minus the -5 and 1 subtract 4. So that gives me 5 minus the -5 over 1 minus 4. Additive inverse gives me 10 over a -3. So my m is equal to 10 over the negative 3. Remember, the negative goes with any part because it's a negative fraction. I'm now going to plug that in to my BOM. I'm going to choose 1 dot, so I'm going to choose the 1, 5. And we're going to plug it into y equals mx plus b. So the y is 5. The m is a negative 10 thirds times the 1 plus the b. So I have a negative 10 thirds plus b. I'm going to add 10 thirds to both sides. And so I need to make that into a decimal. And it's 3.3 repeating. So that means I'm adding 5 plus the 3.3 repeating. And it should equal my b. So that's 8.3 repeating is the b. So now I have the slope and my BOM. So I'm going to write the final equation. Y equals negative 10 thirds x plus 8.3 repeating. Okay, I want you to try number 5 and 6 on your own, and then please come back and see how you did. All right, so we want to find the slope, and then the b, and then the equation. So your slope was 2. I used for my point the 6, 8. And when I plugged that in, my BOM became a negative 4. So your equation should have been y equals 2x subtract 4. Okay? If you did not get that, you need to go back and recheck the notes and rework so that you make sure that you get your equation of y equals 2x minus 4. All right, for number 6, I'm going to do that down here. The slope was 3. The b was 7. So your answer would be y equals 3x plus 7. All right, I want you to try number 7 and 8 on your own. All right, for slope on number 7, it was 2. Your BOM, your y-intercept was at negative 3. And so your equation would be y equals 2x subtract 3. All right, for number 8, the slope was 1. Your b was 4. And your equation then would be y equals x plus 4. Remember, we don't need to write that 1 because it's assumed in front of the x. All right, go ahead and look at number 9 with me. We're going to do the slope. So I have 9 minus 9, and I have 2 minus 6. So that's going to give me, that's s, let's do m, 0 over negative 4. That's a special case. Whenever you get a 0, you need to know that it's a special case. So let's look at the ordered pairs. If I were to draw a graph, so there's my x and my y axis, and I plot this point, 2, 9, would be about there, and 6, 9 would be about there. What do you notice that line would end up making? that would give us a horizontal line. So that is a 0 slope. So what that means is, since the y numbers are the same, then you are going to be going through at that location. So the equation would be y is equal to 9. That's it. That's the entire equation. Because it's a special case, because we get 0, this gives us, oh no, something's going on. So we need to think about that. So let's look at number 10. What do you notice about number 10's x-axis? They're both -3, and they're in the x. So if I were to graph those over here, I would have -3, 4, and -3, 9. So that line would go through the x-axis. So here your answer would be x is equal to -3, and that's your answer. So if you were to get a 0, then you need to remember that that's a special case, and you need to use the x and the y values to help you figure out what the slope is, and that will give you your equation. So if it's the x's, it's going to be the y. If it's the y's, it's going to be y equals, and if it's the x's, it's going to be x is equal to. Okay? Okay, this has been Lesson 24 Notes. Please make sure that you email me if you have any concerns.